Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargav again. Welcome to Tidbits on Business and Finance with me. The World Bank in its recent report on the global economy says that the Indian economy is expected to grow at the rate of 7.3% during the current financial year, which ends on 31st March 2019. At this rate of growth, we continue to be the fastest growing large economy in the world. As against our growth rate of 7.3%, China is expected to grow at the rate of 6.3%. The Chinese growth rate has fallen because of an overheated banking and finance sector, a fatigued manufacturing sector, and the ongoing US-China trade war. What is worth noting is that in the last financial year, we grew at the rate of 6.7%. This year, we are expected to grow at the rate of 7.3%, says the World Bank. But interestingly, in the first half of the current financial year, which is the June and September quarters, India had grown at the rate of 7.6%. We have fallen to a growth rate of 6.8% in the next two quarters, which is December and the March quarter. And that is because of the crude oil price rise that we witnessed, and also because the fiscal deficit of the government has been rising. And when the fiscal deficit rises, it means the government's ability to spend and invest and boost growth gets limited in a major way. And that is also going to be a reason why in the second half of this year, India's growth rate is falling to 6.8%. In its report, the World Bank estimates that India's growth rate will go up to 7.5% in the next 2 years. The World Bank says that the picture for the global economy in the coming years, in the coming financial year, is gloomy. It also says it sees dark clouds over the global economy, but in that, India is a bright spot. In fact, the World Bank report says that South Asia will continue to record a good growth, and India in particular would be the fastest growing economy. The World Bank says that the impact of demonetization and GST was temporary, and consumption and investment in the economy have shot up, because of which growth rate will only go up. It further says that because of these two impact of demonetization and GST, more and more enterprises are shifting out of the informal sector into the formal sector, which will add to the growth numbers, which will add to the revenue of the government, which will add to the size of the Indian economy. The risk factors, the limiting factors on such growth as seen by the World Bank are currency volatility, possibility of inflation, uncertainty because of elections. If the elections come out with a fractured mandate, perhaps the World Bank would estimate that there could be a question on the reforms, on the direction of the ongoing reforms, because of which the economy always gets a boost. So while the World Bank expects the Indian economy to grow at 7.3%, the CSO, the Central Statistical Organization, expects it to grow at the rate of 7.2%. The CSO is a conservative organization. Its performances, its estimates are always more dependable. It expects the Indian economy to grow because of performance, a better performance in the manufacturing and in the agricultural sector. While the CSO expects us to grow at the rate of 7.2%, the Reserve Bank expects us to grow at the rate of 7.4%. And the IMF also expects us to grow at the rate of 7.3%. These variations in the growth rates, these variations of a minor amount in the growth rate, are because of different bases of assumptions that each of these organizations take. But the CSO also expects that there could be limiting factors on India's growth rate. And those, according to us, according to the CSO, are to do with factors that yet need or that yet bottle the growth on the economy. The government, on the other hand, says that India should be growing at the rate of 7.5% plus in the year 2019, making India the fastest growing economy and also giving India its fastest growth rate in the last 3 years. The CSO's estimates are dependable. Now, if you look at the Indian economy and you look at why it grows, it primarily grows because of consumption and investment. And consumption in India comes because we have a young population. We have a predominantly young population. It is expected that 60% of India's population is below the age of 30, and this is a population which is teeming with aspirations, expectation, which drives consumption. Our youth needs to consume. They are the aspirations and they drive the growth in the economy. Experts therefore estimate that a standard or a normal growth rate of the Indian economy in these conditions is actually 7%. So if we grow at the rate of 7%, we should not be surprised. We should say that's normal. This kind of a growth rate suffers only when the government blunders, and that is what we saw in the demonetization and in the GST coming out in a flawed and hurried manner. Growth rate fell down to 5.7%. That was worrisome because, as I said, the standard normal growth rate of India is now 7%. We need to drive it into a double-digit figure or at least upwards of 8% to say India is growing fast. Otherwise, at 7%, even if we may be the fastest growing economy in the world, believe us, that is the normal growth expected of a young, dynamic, consumer-oriented economy. The question is, what do we need to ensure that growth rate shoots up? All these issues are structural. They have to do with recognizing distress in certain sectors and acting very quickly. What are the challenges to growth that India faces today, because of which our growth rate could fall below the World Bank estimate or our growth rate will not achieve its maximum potential? And those factors that we see at the moment start with the stress and the distress in the MSME sector. Remember that MSME is a huge employment generator, and when the sector is in distress, the overall economy suffers. The government has been late in recognizing this distress. The second one, which will constrain India's growth, which will pose a challenge to its growth upsurge, is going to be the unresolved NPA crisis. Because if the NPAs continue or the banks are not able to lend to their full capacity, growth suffers. The other limiting factor remains ease of doing business. Whatever may be the claims of the government and whatever may be the global rankings, at the ground level, ease of doing business still has a lot of changes to be made. It still needs to be improved. And unless the ease of doing business doesn't improve, manufacturing sector will not catch up. Apart from the NPA crisis being unresolved, according to us, you need bank credit shooting up, and you need to ensure that capital formation and fresh investment in the economy goes up. The fresh investment in Indian economy in the last 2-3 years has been languishing. The income levels of the agricultural sector have been falling, and we need to ensure not just that the capital formation comes to a sustained increased level in a durable mode. We also need to ensure that the agricultural sector's income improves so that it attracts investments. And if that is done, you can expect that India's growth rate will go up to 8% and beyond, which it is not doing at the moment. The fact is that the present BJP government has been late in recognizing stress in the economy. It was late in recognizing that the MSME sector has been suffering right since November 2016. It's only in November 2018 that a relief package was announced. It has been late in recognizing that since 2014 farm incomes have been falling. It's only now that it has come up with measures. June 2018 is when the PM announced an increase in the MSP prices. It has not been enough to give succor to the stressed farm sector, the stressed agricultural sector. So it is the government which has been late in recognizing crisis. The delayed recognition of the NPA crisis is also one such case. And unless the government does not recognize and accept a crisis at the earliest, you can ensure that sector will suffer, that part of the economy will suffer, and to that extent, our growth rate will suffer. So, don't be impressed by the 7.3% growth rate that the World Bank estimates. India needs to grow much better. We have the potential to do it. All we need is much better and improved governance. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.